They say that some secrets should remain buried, and some calls should never be made. In the quiet suburbs outside Columbus, Ohio, two teenagers found themselves at the edge of that line on a seemingly ordinary night that would forever change their lives. Noah Delgado, known among his friends for his thrill-seeking nature and passion for urban legends, had always been fascinated by the dark corners of the internet. His best friend, Reese Nolan, was more reserved, a quiet soul whose anxiety often got the best of him. Yet tonight, driven by the desire to impress Noah, Reese agreed to a dare that would soon spiral out of control. It all began with an old online forum discussing cursed phone numbers. The thread was filled with unsettling stories of prank calls gone wrong, where the caller would receive chilling responses from an unknown entity. Noah, always eager for a viral challenge, dared Reese to make one of these calls during their late-night sleepover. The living room was littered with sleepover snacks and the ambient glow of smartphones. Outside, the woods bordering their backyard whispered secrets in the night. With trembling fingers, Reese scrolled through the list of numbers. The digits glowed ominously on his screen as he hesitated for a heartbeat before dialing one of the numbers. The line rang, and then, in a voice that was calm and eerily polite, came the greeting. "Good evening." The conversation began casually enough. Reese, trying to mask his rising apprehension, blurted out, Yeah, I was wondering, can you find me?" There was a pause, and then the voice replied with precise confidence. "Certainly. You're at 482 Maplewood Drive, correct?" In that instant, Reese's blood turned cold. He had never provided his address to anyone. The unsettling precision in that calm tone sent a shiver down his spine, and he ended the call abruptly, his heart pounding like a drum. "Noah, he knew where I live," he stuttered, his voice barely audible over the sudden silence that had enveloped the room. Noah's mischievous smile faded, replaced by a growing unease. "It must be a coincidence, maybe something with the GPS or a fluke." Noah tried to reassure him, though his voice betrayed his uncertainty. As the night wore on, an oppressive feeling settled over the house. Hours later, in the dead of night, all the lights flickered and then went out, leaving them in pitch darkness with only the haunted glow of their phone screens for company. Suddenly, a soft, agonizing whimper echoed from the front porch. With every nerve on edge, Reese crept to the door. When he pulled it open, the sight that awaited him was straight out of a nightmare. His beloved dog, Max, lay bleeding on the porch. In a rush of panic and disbelief, Reese rushed to his pet's side. The air was thick with dread, and the once benign prank had mutated into a catastrophic reality. Not long after, a neighbor's Ring camera recorded something inexplicable. Grainy footage revealed a figure calm, collected, and cloaked in shadows walking steadily into the woods just behind their house. The figure's measured pace and the unnerving composure it carried only added to the mystery. Despite the clear evidence on the video, investigations stalled. No arrests were made, and the caller's number remained untraceable. The following morning, as dawn broke over the suburban landscape, Reese sat alone on his porch. His hand trembled while clutching his phone, the call log a grim reminder of that fateful night. Questions swirled in his mind. Had the caller truly known his address? And what was the motive behind the chilling message? In a time where online identities could be manipulated with frightening ease, the idea that someone could harness open-source intelligence to reach out and instill terror was not entirely unfathomable. Over time, the incident faded into local lore, a cautionary tale whispered among teenagers and remembered by those who knew its truth. It served as a stark reminder. In an era of digital anonymity, the masks we wear online might just be hiding something far more sinister than we ever imagined. The unanswered questions lingered, a dark reminder that some lines, once crossed, irrevocably change us. This is the story of a simple prank call that escalated into a nightmare, a true account of how technology, urban legends, and the human psyche can intertwine in the most horrifying ways. Let it serve as a warning to all think before you dial. They say home is where the heart is, but what if someone else had been quietly living there all along? After a devastating breakup, Caleb Marchand, a 30-year-old freelance graphic designer with a penchant for self-doubt and late-night creative bursts, found himself crashing on the couch at his college buddy Trent Rivers' newly renovated home in Mesa, Arizona. Trent, a 32-year-old neat freak with a calm, methodical approach to life, had opened his door to Caleb, hoping his friend could find some solace in a safe, structured environment. At first, everything felt like a fresh start: the gentle hum of the air conditioner, the soft lighting that bathed the clean, modern interiors, and the promise of a new beginning. But soon, oddities began to shatter the illusion of safety. It started with strange, almost imperceptible noises. In the dead silence of the early hours around 2 or 3 a.m., Caleb heard faint banging coming from somewhere beneath the house. He told himself it was just the pipes settling, a creak in the old wood. Even when he mentioned it to Trent, who dismissed it with a half smile and a joke about Caleb's overactive imagination, something in his gut whispered that it was more than a minor nuisance. Then, one morning, Caleb noticed his phone charger wasn't where he'd left it. Instead, lying on the kitchen counter was a charger he didn't recognize, its black cord frayed as if it had been used for years. The mystery deepened when he found an old takeout box in the trash. A half-eaten order from a local Chinese restaurant, but neither he nor Trent had ever placed such an order. Trent, a staunch advocate of his new no-carb lifestyle, could hardly be associated with takeout surprises. A growing unease settled over Caleb. He started noticing subtle signs of intrusion. A window left slightly ajar that he was sure he'd closed, a soft, shifting sound near the laundry room when the house was completely dark. One fateful night, spurred by equal measures of trepidation and determination, Caleb decided to investigate. Armed with only his phone's flashlight, he crept into the laundry room. His hands trembled as he discovered the small access panel near the floor. Pulling it open revealed a narrow crawl space, its musty air thick with secrets. In the dim beam of his light, he saw a scene that stopped him cold. A thin, worn mattress, an old flashlight, and, most disturbingly, a spiral notebook. Hesitantly, he flipped it open. The first entry was dated the very day he moved in, and it read, "Day 1. Caleb moves in. Always watches him at night. Annoying, but he doesn't know I'm here." Each subsequent entry was a chilling, methodical account of every movement: Trent's early morning departures, Caleb's late-night bursts of creative work, even moments of private melancholy when Caleb cried himself to sleep. It was a diary of their lives, meticulously kept by someone who had been hidden in the bowels of the house for over 5 weeks. Shaken to his core, Caleb rushed to call 911. Officer Dina Morales, a 44-year-old veteran known for her unflappable calm and experience with trespassers, arrived swiftly. As she conducted a thorough sweep of the crawl space and the house, her clinical but empathetic tone over the radio recorded every detail. Her investigation soon confirmed what Caleb had feared. A man had been living undetected beneath the home, using a spare key left carelessly under the welcome Mata key Trent had forgotten about in the shuffle of his move-in day. In a twist that was as surreal as it was terrifying, surveillance footage from a local Walmart revealed the intruder later that week. The grainy clip showed him, disheveled and determined, calmly crawling out of a dumpster as if emerging from a long, secretive existence. When cornered, he muttered in a low, hollow voice, "I was never here to hurt you. I just wanted to belong." The fallout was immediate. Caleb vacated the house that very day, his sense of privacy shattered by the knowledge that every move he made had been watched, recorded like a scene in someone else's journal. Trent, reeling from the betrayal of his once safe home, sealed the crawl space shut with concrete an irreversible barrier against an unseen violation. Even now, years later, both men remember the night that their sanctuary was invaded. It lingers a cautionary tale of modern vulnerability. In an era when our personal spaces are increasingly digitized and interconnected, the lines between safety and surveillance blur, until you're left with the unsettling question: who is really living in your house? Lock your doors and double-check those spare keys. Because sometimes, the most frightening intruders aren't breaking through windows. They're creeping in from the shadows, unnoticed until it's too late. Ever lie in bed and hear footsteps under your own floor? That's the question Brenna Fisher's 14-year-old logical mind never thought she'd have to answer until one fateful weekend in a 100-year-old duplex in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Brenna, a dedicated crime documentary buff who diligently fills the pages of her journal with real-life mysteries, was having a routine sleepover with her best friend Maya Singh. Maya, ever the skeptic, rolled her eyes at ghost stories and paranormal talk, insisting that everything had a logical explanation. But that night, something was different. It began with a sound of slow, deliberate tap, tap, tap echoing from beneath the creaky floorboards. At first, Brenna attributed it to the old furnace or the natural settling of the aging house. Maya, half asleep and half mocking, whispered, "It's just the house, right?" But as the sounds grew in rhythm and intensity, even Maya's dismissive smirk faltered. As midnight passed, the tapping stopped. The two friends retreated under layers of blankets, hearts gradually calming back to normalcy. Meanwhile, Darlene Fisher, Brenna's single mother and a tireless night shift nurse, was miles away, unaware of the quiet terror unfolding at home. Then came 3. 17 Amaya jolted awake, her eyes wide with disbelief. She heard it again, a low, almost tuneless humming drifting up from downstairs. Brenna's pulse quickened as she reached for the glow of her phone's flashlight. Together, they crept toward the basement door, the silence around them now oppressive and thick with anticipation. In the dim light of the hallway, they discovered something they'd never noticed before. A dusty, forgotten hatch door in the basement, slightly ajar, as if inviting them into a hidden secret. With trembling hands, Brenna pushed it open, the hinges creaking in protest, releasing a stale rush of air mixed with mold and decay. Inside that narrow crawl space, their flashlight beam revealed a scene out of a nightmare. A moldy sleeping bag lay crumpled on the cold concrete. Several empty peanut butter jars, their labels faded, were scattered in a haphazard pile. A cluster of discarded cigarette butts and a few torn pages of a magazine hinted at a life lived in shadows. But what gripped them with icy terror was a leather-bound notebook, its pages filled with meticulous, almost obsessive entries. Brenna's journal-like narration echoed in her mind as she read aloud, voice barely above a whisper. Day 6. The girls always have their sleepovers. They think the footsteps are just pipes. They're so unaware. Every entry documented the daily routines of the house, the exact time Darlene left for her night shift, when Brenna and Maya would return to bed, even noting the soft sound of laughter during their late-night movies. It was as if someone had been watching them, living right beneath the very floor they slept on. Brenna's logical mind rebelled. Surely, there had to be a rational explanation. Someone had found their way in through a broken basement window, exploiting the age-old vulnerabilities of this century-old house. The realization struck hard. A drifter had been secretly living in the basement boiler room, undetected for weeks. Fear gripping every nerve, Brenna and Maya scrambled to call 911. Officer Dina Morales, a seasoned 44-year-old with years of experience dealing with trespassers, arrived swiftly. Her calm, methodical demeanor over the radio gave the situation an unsettling, clinical feel. As she inspected the crawl space and the broken basement window, she confirmed what the girls dreaded. Someone had been watching them, moving silently underfoot in their home. Surveillance footage later recovered from nearby security. Cameras grainy, unsettling stills of a desperate man rifling through a dumpster at a local store corroborated the story. The drifter, a local man with no permanent address, had used the broken window as his entry point and remained hidden in the dark confines of the basement for at least 3 weeks. Even more chilling was the realization that there was no malice in his actions. He wasn't violent, he wasn't out to harm anyone. He simply existed, unnoticed, right beneath their feet, exploiting the illusion of safety in a home they trusted. In the aftermath, Brenna's journal became even more personal, a raw recounting of terror and disbelief. The house, with its creaky floorboards and cracked windows, had forever lost its sense of sanctuary. For Brenna, each night was now colored with the knowledge that real danger doesn't always knock at your door. Sometimes, it creeps silently beneath the floor. So, next time you think your home is safe, remember, privacy is an illusion, and sometimes the scariest intruders are already living in the shadows just feet away while you sleep.
Like, subscribe, and comment.